Welcome to the Wrestling Still Cool podcast. My name's Cam. That's Mark.
Hey, y'all doing? Appreciate y'all joining on in.
All right, so before we get into it, you can follow us on Twitter at WrestlingSCool and go ahead and take it over for the rest.
For Instagram, it's at Wrestling Still Cool. TikTok is at Wrestling Still Cool 90. Facebook is Wrestling Still Cool. And you get us on email at WrestlingStillCool@gmail.com.
So this one, we're going to talk more about the PG era of WWE. The reason this came about is in a recent interview, Undertaker talked about how soft the current batch of guys are. And I get where he's coming from. I mean, in his eyes, sitting around playing video games, trying to be, that kind of thing is not what he was used to. And I get that. At the same point, I kind of look at it like, video games are better than drugs. But either way, there was a response to it from Roman Reigns that says, working in the PG era is a little bit hard than what other people might perceive it to be. In the Attitude Era, they cussed a lot more, and being able to say some things that are a little bit more risque versus what they can do nowadays. And I think there's some validity to that.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I understand what he's saying. I understand the point. There's between, obviously, backstage, between the preparation of the show and what they do for hobbies, the backstage, as you said, video games. I mean, I understand that it's better to do video games than other things you should not be doing. I'm not saying they always did drugs or whatnot, or whatever craziness they brought to the backstage. But I understand when you're come from, especially in the older school, it's a lot different than, of course, newer school. I mean, I believe you should be doing more preparation than just doing video games. I do personally believe that, but if that's if you have an hour to kill and need a little escape, I understand that too. Video games weren't they were around back in the day, but obviously technology changed, so it makes more advanced, easier to play sometimes. But I just I guess the word soft, I don't know, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, if you're talking about the human beings being soft, I'm sure they're obviously tough guys, tough girls too, but the product itself obviously is different ball game than it was years ago. But obviously the world evolves and changes. Do we always like it? No, we do not. I mean, some people do, some people don't. Between language used, type of script spots that are written, different things has been dubbed down, I guess, to where it's not as what you would call sometimes as, I guess, certain things because it's thrill or something is always memorable. I can understand that, but the product being soft depends on Undertaker's view on what all could pertain to soft and whether people pertain or perceive to being soft too. That's just depends on the product, depends on your viewers, depends on also the sponsors, and also this is importantly the network. There's a generation change. I mean, that's what kind of goes along with, and what I watched when I was a kid is a lot different than someone this day and age too. So that's
Well, yeah, right, and PG era is not technically, I think, considered this era the new era, but one of the things that I think is kind of also important to point out is, if whether or not it's talking about the guys or not, the current batch of wrestlers' work rate is way higher than it was in the 90s. 90s was all about taking it slow and not necessarily what you did inside the ring was as important or as analyzed as it is nowadays. And there's absolutely no way I think Ricochet would ever be a star that he is now, even though he's not that big of a star in WWE's eyes. But there's no way he would be a star back in those days. There's no way.
When you say the things they do in the ring did you say more has a different importance to it as it was back in the day?
Well, okay, what I mean by that, it's not necessarily the storytelling, because it was 90s was very heavy on storytelling. I mean, like, okay, if you watch a match right now, let's say AJ versus Owens. They're going to be more all over the place. They're going to be doing, you might get a headlock here and there, but you're going to see AJ fly over the ring. You're going to see Kevin Owens pull out a frog splash, which guys his size didn't do that back in the 90s, and things like that. You're going to see more acrobatic and more athletic style moves than you would have seen in the 90s, where those guys are going to be pulling off stuff that you only see in WCW's cruiserweight division. You wouldn't see it anywhere else.
My only problem, and we've talked about a little bit about this in different episodes in our archives. I do enjoy what you would have as examples of a match between Owens and AJ Styles. However, there's matches between other guys that it's more just about a move. That's all there is to it. I don't want to see a move. That's cool. But I'm gonna see the next match or two the same moves. It's like when you're not using psychology in a match, that's just as important. It's more important if you're telling a story. It's like it's nice to see some cool moves, cool spots, but it's like that's all you got, and it's not going to be as I'm not going to be bought into this show. So it's like I guess when we're it's more or less, if you're not going to tell me a story, it's cool to have a great match. Cool to have some good moves, or at least some high risk moves, etc. That's a problem. Storytelling. It's cool to see 5 or 10 different super kicks sometimes, but it's really not. It's you overused it. There's no value into it. It's like, cool, you did that. So did Shawn Michaels years ago. Times change, but then there's no real value to that move, so that's not a finisher anymore. So I know it's a little different subject than being soft, but it's a change of the product. I'm not always a fan of it, how much it's changed, but it's but the good thing about the change is also allowed some of the smaller guys, the independents, also are now getting a better chance, which is a good thing. You open up. It's not just about a certain size anymore. Now you get to have somebody in there that's smaller size. It gets a chance. Like you said, Ricochet. He's I wouldn't have saw him at when I first seen him how much he's evolved to being a bigger star.
Right, and I guess like what I'm kind of getting at is guys like Mongo would not be able to last today at all. Guys that there was no way he would be anywhere near that level. And then you got guys like Cesaro who are athletic, are big guys, can definitely do the stuff in the ring. And there's no way anyone, in my opinion, in the 90s that wouldn't be able to match everything that like something Cesaro does in his athletic ability. Undertaker himself was an athletic guy, but he didn't really pull it off that much, and probably a good thing he didn't. But
his character was not that. If you took him, I mean, I'm not saying he's comparable to Ricochet, but if his character was what it was at one point in time, where he was able to, when he first started, he wasn't somebody who flew like over the ropes. That wasn't his character. He evolved, and eventually he did do that. Not match all the time, but he did do that. But is he as athletic as someone like Ricochet or Shelton Benjamin, etc.? No, not as high flyer. But I think it's just more different athleticism that they had back in the day. Now, obviously, wrestlers today have a lot different and more advancement with their athletics. So it makes the product look different in different companies.
Right. But on this similar subject, kind of on the in-ring stuff and things like that, and I think this kind of plays into being soft as well. Undertaker took chair shots to the head.
Mm-hmm.
That he did. Mm-hmm. But WWE cut that out, especially as they move closer and closer to the PG era. They cut it out after Chris Benoit's death and whatnot. Now, do I think that's something you can blame the current guys on? Not at all. That's WWE trying to protect its assets and not get sued. But to instigate and say like, they're soft because, I would have done that no matter what. Nah, man, they got to protect their health. What we know about health nowadays versus what we knew, I was going to say 20 years ago, but that wouldn't even been the 90s. 30 years ago. it's changed so much that these guys really want to take care of themselves. And I'm not saying he's saying this about everybody, but there has been a lot of changes, and I would say probably in the last 15 years where people have more concern over their health. You have people like Daniel Bryan, who is vegan or was vegan. I don't know if he is a vegan still or not.
Probably
Austin Aries is vegan, things like that. They try to make these changes for the reason of their health, and maybe they don't want to take a chair shot to the head because of what happened to Chris Benoit. That's no reason to call them soft.
There's something that Jim Ross said a while back, and I'm not just saying it because of Jim Ross saying this. And this goes into a good point of the type of matches they feature sometimes. It's
Oh, you're talking about the jumping thing?
No.
Oh, okay.
The use of chair shots. It's cool to have them sometimes on different situations, but you don't have to have a chair shot in matches. You really don't. I mean, it's more or less good for a spot. You don't have to sit there and have a chairs match, or think, oh, well, I have to get to the chair just to bust you open or something. I mean, yeah, it's a spot, but you don't. It's to have a great wrestling match. You don't have to sit there and have. It's been proven a number of times. You don't have to have a great match with the chair. You can do a great match without the chair. If you want, Stone Cold, actually, he's the one who didn't take chair shots to the head very much. He put his hand up. He knew that he wasn't going to take it in the head. And it's good to protect yourself. Now, can you protect yourself these days? Yeah, you can. There's no reason why you can't take a chair shot and not protect yourself. But I understand there's a risk of that involved. In some ways, I honestly can understand the risk. Being it banned or being it ain't done as nearly as often. It's a wrestling show, so I mean, it's like there's going to be chairs involved. One aspect or another, obviously, it became more of a thing. Even more so with ECW back in the day, the original ECW, the original one. I mean, you don't have to have a chair, but it can be good for spots. And that's really, I mean, it's calling it soft because you don't have as much, I guess, craziness is that, with the Attitude Era, it was a different ball game, but you can't have the Attitude Era to today's world. Different characters back then. You had different society, different view, different advertisers, different network. Attitude Era wasn't it back in 1970 or 80 or 1990. It was different generations, different ball game, different era, different society. So that's why it's not everybody wants to see, especially with the parents, they have their kids watching the bra and panties match. I'm just using it as an example. You can't have you can't barbed wire, the ring ropes. Can't you don't need that. And is it entertaining to a taste? It can be. I mean, I wasn't overly entertained by it. It was just. Didn't need it. Wasn't wrestling necessarily, but I understand they're doing something.
Right. Yeah. Well, and something you said about the whole chair thing, there's some people that would use it and use it smartly. I give a lot of respect to Raven for being able to make hardcore matches make sense psychologically. It made him look like a dick when he did the drop toe hold into a chair. It made him look like a dick. He didn't use it every match. He only used it in certain matches, but it made him look like he was the heel. And that was using it properly. Just like when he said, he kind of sold this on the psychological thing, but it completely makes sense. When he was in ECW, Paul Heyman wanted him to take a chair shot from behind, and he instantly thought, no, I don't have a way to protect myself, and he didn't want to do that. So when he asked, he goes, well, why am I doing this? He goes, oh, well, it'll be great. You'll get a pop for getting hit. And he goes, okay, Paul, what do you think about if I turn around and I jump because he has a chair and then I get whacked? That might sound better. And he goes, yeah, it sounds better. Go ahead and do that. Which apparently the crowd popped at him